Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, this will help. So, from my readings from the past few years, there's 3 areas in the life purpose reading that explain in great detail who you are, why you're here, what your mission is, what your gifts are. Explain even why you are the way you are and what most likely is the most ideal path for you. And you might be thinking now, oh, so things are set in stone. There is just one ideal path. But as you will hopefully see here, that ideal path has a lot of little segues through which you can travel as well. So even your gifts are these beautiful umbrellas, and you can store so much underneath it, okay? So I generally see 2 types of people. People who have a very direct, focused line of this is why they are here, and they work within those parameters. So I just use in Earth School healer, but let's use teacher for argument's sake, just to spice it up a bit. So the 3 areas that reveal the most around your mission, your purpose, your gifts, and whether you are multi-talented or very focused, your soul origin, and this is your star seed and where you were before you started coming down pardon me, to Earth. The second one is your soul origin, your soul training. So when you emerged from the sea of consciousness, or when you were created, and I'm using these terms, but please don't put too much weight to it. It's really, that's how they show it to me, so that we can all understand what happens. There's obviously not a particular birth of soul. You can always go back and be absorbed into the sea of consciousness and then re-emerge. But just so we can understand, like, your timeline started somewhere. When you emerged from the sea of consciousness, when you were created, before you started having your incarnations, you were trained. You were trained by one of the 7 archangels, and in the archangelic realms. And you would have an archangel like Raphael, Gabriel, Zadkiel, Zophiel, Oriel, or Shamiel, or Michael. Each archangel corresponds to one of your chakras. So depending on who you worked with, who you trained with, that particular chakra is very strong and dominant, but also it tells us a lot about your karmic pains, karmic wounds. But that's for another story. That's not here. We don't need that kind of information. What we do need is, when you trained with a particular archangel, you embody their qualities. Okay, so this is the second path, and this tells us a lot about who you are, the gifts that you will use, and also any downfalls, anything to keep in mind. It often tells us the areas, like career choices, that would be most suited for you. Hello, Colleen. Beautiful. Oh, Michelle, that makes me so happy, and we're just getting started. So that's the second part. So starseed energy, or starseed origin, then your archangelic realm where you trained, and then the third one are your soul gifts. Now with the soul gifts, what I have noticed doing these readings is that generally a soul will have somewhere between 5 to 8 gifts. If a soul is older and has been coming down to earth more often and started to come, in fact, not just for themselves but for others, to help others, they tend to pick up another gift. So it's not uncommon for me to see 9 or 10 gifts in especially people who are already spiritual workers or are meant to be spiritual workers here. Now please note that the amount of gifts doesn't make you better or worse as a soul. It just means your soul has these many gifts these many reasons to be here. These are the gifts that you give to others. These are the insights that tell us a lot about who you are and what perhaps areas of work would suit you, because they're your soul, soul purpose, soul work even. Sometimes a gift is dormant. So let's say I'm telling you the gifts and you're like, oh, that one doesn't resonate, or I never thought of myself as that. And that's because something happened on your timeline as a soul and your soul decided to shut it down. Generally, this is like an intuitive gift, perhaps a healing gift, because maybe you were prosecuted lifetime over lifetime, and so your soul shut it down. So basically, when you go into a lifetime, you don't use that gift, but you can activate it when you are aware of it. But what I want to talk about just for a moment is the age of the group, of the souls. This is really important, because when we talk about an older soul, a younger soul, an adult soul, a teenage soul, like I usually use these terms when I'm in a session, it's not that if you're an older person, you're an older soul. If you're a child, you're a younger soul. This refers to there's two types. There's in overall, like all your incarnations. So sometimes they might tell me, say, Michelle has had 550 lives in total. That means on Earth and anywhere else. But sometimes they want to bring the focus to here right now, this lifetime, and don't want you to perhaps think or get overwhelmed with how many lives you had. So they would say, Michelle has had 339 earthly lives. And that already tells me, okay, she is starting to come down here, not just for herself, because younger souls tend to come down here for themselves, but older souls or those teenage souls start to come here for others. So you might be still healing your own stuff, but simultaneously you're also very drawn to helping others, making someone else's life better. And this is important because as you start to become that soul, that type of soul who starts to come down here, this confusion in your talented way of being becomes more apparent. Okay, so let's pedal back to the three areas that I mentioned, the archangelic realm, the soul family or starseed of origin, and your soul gifts. Okay, so soul gifts are, for example, teacher, guide, and mentor, or intuitive, or perhaps healer, right? Or a catalyst for change. Now, I have identified, I think about, let me take a look at my notes, how many gifts? 60? I think it's 64. Let me double check this. 65, yes, 65 gifts. 65 different gifts. So these gifts, like when you get, for example, teacher, guide, and mentor, and you also have protecting people, but you also have catalyst for change or creative, right? Like they're all seemingly different energies, right? So what that means is that your playing field is wider. So you could essentially be a teacher that perhaps, like a teacher at school. But because you have also intuitive, that you're intuitive, now we're all intuitive, but when this comes up in a gift, that means you've been using this in your lifetimes. This was a very big part of you. This isn't just, hey, we all have intuition, so next time when you can't decide to go left or right or what gift to buy or what's that for breakfast, use your intuition, right? You were actually using your intuition for much deeper, meaningful things. So let's say you're a teacher, but you also have the gift of intuition. So perhaps you have noticed that you don't like to follow the curriculum, right? Perhaps you like to, and people called you a rule breaker, but you know that there is more, that there's different ways to teach, and you trust that intuition, right? Your intuition doesn't fail you. Maybe also as this teacher, you are a healer. Maybe you have the healing gift. So if you have the healing gift, you don't have to be the school nurse, although you could. You don't have to all of a sudden, go and be a nurse. But if you're happy being a teacher, holding the energy of the healer in the forefront of your mind means that you are aware that you have healing energy. People feel different in your presence. And the more awareness you bring to that, the more you will start to see this in the physical world. So maybe you have children who are very tired or, energy bundles and stuff. Knowing that with your energy, you can affect their energy, right? Heal them. It's powerful. Your classroom will become magnetic because you have shown the light on this gift, which is healing. So if you have these gifts that feel like they're all over the place, right? And then you look at your archangelic realm where you have trained, and perhaps you have Archangel Raphael, right? Or you have Archangel Oriel, who is the bringer of love and is here to show us kindness and to kind of be very heart-centered. As a teacher, your job is going to be your passion, okay? But you might decide after a few years, I am burned out as a teacher because you've been absorbing all this energy and maybe it got too emotional for you, or maybe you couldn't deal with the politics because you're so intuitive and so heart-centered. And you decide to be a coach. And that's still within your umbrella. So even though they're seemingly completely different titles, a coach for, helping people to lose weight, right? There's your healer, there's your teacher, there's your, intuitive, because you're doing it on your own. You're creating your own business. So that one, when you have all these sort of seemingly different what are they called? Let's say attributes, right? So you look at your archangelic, you've got Archangel Oriel, you've got your gifts, which are all over the place. There seems to be no logic to it. And then you look at your starseed lineage, and you might have your starseed origin is Mintakian, which is heart-centered, here to be of service. But then you have Pleiadian. And Pleiadian is very fast-paced energy, right? They can't sit still. They don't want to wait. They want to get from A to B as fast as possible. They want to get things done. They're the visionaries, big picture people, right? They don't want to know, how is this going to work? Tell me all the details. No, I want it done. How? Just get me from A to B, right? So when you look at this chart, seemingly it looks like it's all over the place. And what I was sharing in air school is the best thing is to remove any titles, any human titles, because humans like to categorize things. We like to know, am I a lash stylist, beautician, or a hairdresser? Like, who am I? Like, can I be a beautician and run a rodeo show? No, because it doesn't fit into it, right? Can I be a healer that heals with plant medicine, but I also really love my job as a caretaker, right? Well, no, sorry, this doesn't, like, who are you? And then on top of it all, you want to also be painting and exhibiting your paintings in galleries. No, right? Like, humans like to know exactly who are you, where can they place you, what box. So we need to remove all that. So if you feel like you are being pulled into all these different directions, my guess is that if we looked at your life purpose, like in that blueprint, these 3 categories would be all over the place, seemingly. But what it really means is you have done so much in your soul's journey that basically you can take these energies and channel them into anything as long as it is connected to your heart. It brings you joy, it brings you satisfaction, it brings you love, it brings you that bliss. The moment you start doing something because you feel you have to, your soul is going to feel squashed. burned out. Okay, the moment you start to define things and categorize and what does it mean, forget about it. You're going to burn yourself out. You're going to waste energy on that. So if you are like that, if you have that wider spectrum sort of interest, of talent, embrace it. Okay, embrace it. And just go like, okay, where's it going to lead me next? And instead of thinking, which is thinking from a very close mind, that's the human mind, trying to figure out, well, can I be a coach and can I be a crochet artist, right? Instead of trying to figure out, like, what is my brand? How do I make it all work? No, just follow what brings you joy, okay? And if you wake up and this thing no longer brings you joy, don't worry about it. Don't think, well, I thought that's my authentic self, and now I'm no longer attracted to this. I don't want to do this anymore. So does that mean I am not my authentic self? Or was I not my authentic self then? Am I now more my authentic self? You see how that wastes a lot of energy. So instead, just follow your nose. Just follow, where is it leading you? Now, obviously, if you have this type of reading, like if you have access to, and I'll tell you in a minute how you can without the reading, but if you have done a session with me, you should have your notes. I hope you have the session recorded. I mean, I've sent it to you. This is why I recorded, because this reading is so important. It's like a once in a lifetime reading. This is the most important reading. You want to keep it on file. Pardon me, because you can go back and check. And I promise you, even if you think you remember things a certain way, you will hear them in a different way. It will resonate for you in a different way. But it will give you clues. It will show you the thread and how it weaves. And I promise you, you will see the connections. You will understand why you are drawn to this or that. Now, before we go into, what if I don't have that reading? Let's focus on what happens when you are very laser focused, because it's not a straight arrow still. So sometimes what happens is that your archangelic realm, let's say, is Archangel Raphael, which is healer. All your gifts kind of are like healer, counselor, advisor, what else? What else is there? What else? Maybe you have intuitive, maybe you have empath or relator, you know, pointing at other people's gifts. So they're all kind of, you know, healing, you know, some sort of form of healing, right? Like your umbrella is pretty much healing. And then you look at your starseed lineage, and your starseed lineage points you to Arcturian, Mintakian, beautiful energies, right? Like very healing. So even though you are a healer there, you might have the creative gift, or you might have, you know, something somewhere saying that you're really good at learning or exploring or writing. Again, if you look at just the gift itself, and you're like, yeah, but I've got this, and this doesn't make sense with all of that, you know, don't worry about paying attention to one single gift. Look for the common thread. Now, the very focused reading, the very focused sort of blueprint, if someone has that, so it's like healer, 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 everything points to healer. Still, it doesn't mean you have to become a doctor and be a doctor for the rest of your life. It doesn't mean that if you were a doctor, you can't be an energy healer, right? If you all of a sudden wake up and you're drawn to Reiki or energy healing, you know, any of that, just follow it, because it will still fulfill your soul's purpose, just in that healing energy is poured into a different container. So when there's a very laser focused, very straightforward sort of description of your soul, that's fantastic too. And I promise you, it's not limiting, because what they're saying is you can be a healer that uses that energy to heal this way, this way, this way. You can pour it into being a doctor, being a plant medicine doctor, or a naturopath. You might also decide, you know, I actually really enjoy writing poetry, and I want to write poetry. As long as you hold that intention of healing, I'm healing with my words, everything that you write will be healing for someone. It will be healing because you've coded or infused it with healing energy. Your words or the art or the music that you do, you're infusing it with healing energies. So this is really important. Now, if you're thinking, okay, I haven't had a session, you know, like how do I find out these 3 categories? So I just want to tell you, and I'm pretty sure I've spoken about the Akashic Records here as well numerous times. I think even spoken on my podcast. I feel like if you even go to YouTube, you will find videos. Perhaps you have learned to read the Akashic Records maybe through a book or a different teacher. Go into the Akashic Records and ask specifically to be shown. And this is the interesting thing, because if you went and you said, okay, am I a multi-talented soul? Am I just lost? Am I just wishy-washy? Like, or am I more focused? Tell me, who am I? That kind of question is like going to a big state library, city library, going up to the lady that works there and saying, I want a book with a flower on it. And she's like, all right, do you want a biology book? Is it perhaps non-fiction, fiction? Is it about a specific flower? Like, what do you want? So, when I do my readings, right, my life purpose reading, my Akashic Record readings, the reason I think that people enjoy it is because they get specific things. Like, we don't just wander through past lives and wishy-washy stuff. We get very specific things. Because when I go, I ask for specific things. Over the years, I've formulated, I was sharing this with the schoolers. It took me a really long time to formulate the specific questions to ask, and also to figure out through multiple readings, how many soul gifts are there? You know, how many life lessons do we have? And I was just taking notes. But all you have to do is, when you go into your Akashic Records, ask for your soul origin. Where did your soul originate? Now, you can say, is it relevant for me to know any other incarnations, any other stars? Is there a lineage there? The reason you want to ask that is because that will give you an idea of, like, the next ones that will follow that soul of origin will give you an idea whether it's consistent or whether it's a little bit inconsistent. What that means is, imagine you were born in Australia, and when you were 5, your parents moved to Japan. And you still know the language. You remember, you know, Vegemite is your favorite breakfast condiment. You know, you remember perhaps some Australian songs, right, and traditions. But you also embrace the Japanese culture, the language, the food. And then maybe as an adult, you decide you want to move to Germany. So you won't just immediately forget everything, you know, up until that moment. You will still remember how to speak English. You will maybe even remember how to speak Japanese. You will love the food, the traditions. But you're also going to make room now and embody German language and German food and German traditions, right? And that's how it is with the starseed lineage. When you look at the origin, that's the one that you embody the strongest. It's the one you were born into almost. And then the other ones that they show you, and generally with me, they show me maybe 1, maybe 2, depending on who it is, what they need to know. And then from that, I can gauge, oh, they're very similar energies, or they're completely opposite. So that's number 1. Number 2, you ask for your archangelic realm, or the realm where you trained. What archangel was it? What was it? Was it Archangel Gabriel? Was it Archangel Raphael? Was it Archangel Zophiel? And then, you know, you can ask them to show you, like, what did we do? What energies do I embody? So I can tell you, Archangel Oriel is all about love, unconditional love, brings love into the physical, reminds us to be nice and kind, wears the heart on the sleeve, you know, Archangel Raphael is also here, the bringer of light, very lightness. So that's why there's a lot of light workers, or a lot. The light workers that I have trained with Archangel Oriel, they're very upbeat and happy, and you know, just want to see the nice, the pretty side of life. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just how they are wired. That's what they choose to focus on, right? But also what is important, because Archangel Oriel is the root chakra, that's the center that connects us to Archangel Oriel, or connects you if you've trained. What's important is grounding. You need to ground yourself. You need to be amongst nature. That's how you recharge your batteries, right? So things like that, they will tell you. And then you go like, okay, so I've got this piece of information with the star seeds. I've got Archangel. And then you ask for your soul gifts, and you keep in mind, and you can use a pendulum for that, you should have somewhere between 5 or 8, give or take. That's just how I noticed with clients. The older souls have more, the spiritual souls have more, but generally it's 5 to 8. So just ask, and just ask, what are the gifts, and trust your intuition, trust what comes through. Notice, and then when you have these pieces of information, what is the common thread? What is the thing that brings it all together? And like I said, if at first you look at it and it all looks like the gifts are all over the place, I've got here an archangel that's healer, but everything else is like, you know, Mintakian or Pleiadian, you know, then look at it. Okay, the healer feels the strongest, right? The healer is perhaps, you know, you've got a lot of similar gifts that are healer, but there's the odd one there. You know, if the healer feels strongest, that means you are here to bring the healing energy into whatever area of life that you choose to engage with. Maybe as a teacher, maybe as a firefighter, maybe as a writer, whatever it is, right? That's where you bring the energies in. Instead of having titles, focus on that. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you would like to join Earth School, I currently have doors open to that. They will close in September. I sort of only open them twice a year. This year I've decided, because we are a lovely intimate group. So if you would like to join, you can. In Earth School you will have all these different things. There's a lot of information about star seeds, about life lessons. We've sort of done it over the years, and every time there's new information I always share this. There's also how to access your Akashic records. Basically we've divided our month into a group energy healing that happens, and then we have the Akashic session like this one, which now I'm making very interactive. So if anyone has any questions or would like to receive a little bit of insight around this topic because it resonates with them, we do that. And then the third Wednesday is usually Psychic 101. So if you are interested in developing your gifts further, that would be a good session for you. And the last session of the month is usually the Akashic 101 with 3 members. So every month 3 members get, and we've got a system, so it's not like you will be overlooked. Generally you get 2, sometimes 3 per year readings with me, and that's a 15-minute deal. Those of you who had 30-minute sessions with me, you know how much we get. So 15-minute is powerful, and the price is $55 per month. So it is a subscription, but you can cancel anytime. So that's Earth School. Life Purpose, if you want me to get the information for your Life Purpose, is probably the session to go with. But other than that, please know that you can go by yourself and ask. And these are the areas that I would focus on. This is what I would ask them, and then trust. Because from a soul's perspective, there isn't like your gifts or your purpose is not one word, one title. There's no limit to it. It's more that you are either a soul that is very laser focused, and your playing field is, let's say, a bit more narrow but very focused. And even still, like if it's healing, could be anything, right? Like it doesn't mean that you have to stick with one particular thing. It just means that you feel very drawn to the healing field, and you might just change how you deliver healing. Or the other type is the more broader one. And it's broad because you are multi-talented. You have so many different things. You could be creative, you could be a healer, and each time you kind of intertwine these energies. So you could bring healing into your creative work, and you could be creative with your healing, right? Because maybe you will work on your own modality, or perhaps because you are creating a business, right, around the healing. So don't get too hung up on titles or like why it's happening. The one thing that they're reminding me to say to you before we go is don't get caught up in feeling bad if you're changing, because you're also growing. And that's the other indicator. Those souls with the wider things, when they grow, they get dissatisfied with the way they were doing things. They get dissatisfied with what they were doing. And so they feel that push, that need to change, and that's what drives them to go, even if it's something completely different to what they were doing. I bet the underlying root cause or reason for you doing this is connected to